And welcome all to another edition of Aurelian's Fair, the live stream event for the Restitutor Orbis Channel. I'm your host, Lucius Aurelian, and thank you for joining me. Looks like I have to start the day off with a thanks already to Tabor J. Eaton. Thank you very much for that, Tabor. Who else do we have on board? Go ahead and say hi now in the comments, and I will greet you. All right. Well, either we're awaiting others to arrive or hey Oki, hey Adam Baum, good to hear from you. Looks like we just had a little bit of a lag on that one. Now they're all coming in. Stephanie B, hello. And of course, Tabor, good to see you. And anybody else want to say hello right off the bat? And if not, we'll just go ahead and get started. All right. We'll go right into what we have here. Hey, Seminole. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Hey, nothing's free. Good to hear from you. And can everybody see this wondrous opera house? All right. Well, the first thing we're going to be taking a look at here is this opera house in Königsplatz, Berlin. 5 out of 5. All right. Good to know. Now, you might be surprised to know that this particular opera house was a submitted design, and yet there are many conflicting records that indicate it may have actually been there in Berlin at one point in time. And what do you think of the top here? You have what looks to be a pyramid type construction in blocks, which is not something you tend to see in what they would consider, though, that classical Greco-Roman style that they seem to model so many buildings after. But then you look down and here you have the classic, Roman forum style that they call it, along with the columns and the classic statues. So what do you think of this sort of hybrid design? Because this isn't something that we're typically used to when we look at buildings like this. And this is supposedly from that same era of the Lecuy drawings, 1790 to 1810. But again, who knows for sure? So open it up. What do y'all think of this one? And I definitely agree. Nothing's free. That is nice. It'd be incredible if we could build something like that today. Hey, Jackie. Yeah, that's a good call out. It does look like Angkor Wat, doesn't it? Especially the top. I agree with you on that one. Vanilla Sky. That's a good call out too, Stephanie. Supposed to be Berlin. They were going to put this in Berlin, Germany, in the early 19th century. Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I'm going to be getting to an exploration of Angkor Wat here in good time. I mean, to cover all the details of that entire region of the world and all its myth and legends, that's going to take some serious time, especially when we start getting into Vedic legends, the Mahabharata, and everything associated with that, Adam's Bridge. I mean, I've got more topics than I could ever cover in years, so don't worry, I'm not going to be running out of ideas anytime soon. But what's intriguing to me about this, yeah, needed room for those rallies. Yeah, true. As though they knew. No known architect, no known designer. We have the usual affiliations, and it's associated to some person, whether it's Lecuy or whoever. I think this one might be associated to one of his contemporaries. Yeah, exactly. Good one, Adam. Let me put that one out there. And yes, I think those are supposed to be people. Let's zoom in. Oh, yes, they are. But this is just one of those that right off the bat you see what you're getting into with these kind of explorations. And I picked this one because of the fact that you do have the mixed styles. You have something that seems like it's from an area that should be a different culture, and yet it doesn't quite fit with this kind of style, at least what the traditional narrative tells us. So this building and this rendering, this picture, whatever you want to call it, this is a real indicator that things don't exactly match what we're told or what we know. So figure this would be a good one to start with, especially since we're told that opera houses were very endemic to Europe and something that really represented the culture there. And yet here they are mixing these clashing architectural styles in times that don't make any sense. Sort of like when you go to Germany and see pagodas all over everywhere. I don't really explain that either. So we'll move to the next one. Now, this actually is considered a Lecuy drawing, although, again, no one knows who actually designed this or, again, if this is built. My theory is that this is something that they recorded, and it's another unique combination design where you have sort of that forum, what we'd be told is Greco-Roman, but then you mix it with a pyramid and a very, very interesting top. Yeah, exactly. That could be right, Adam. One era built on top of the other. That could be very right with that one. But then what's even more intriguing is you have what looks to be, whether these are statues or, oh yeah, and whether these are statues or do these serve some other function, not really sure. But again, this is just not what you tend to see. Yeah, no problem. We could build it. And you know what? You could do it with just regular day labor, or maybe you could find convict labor if you're in the Southwest United States. But this is definitely another one of those anomalies. And the main reason for that is just because you have the mix of designs here. And you tend not to see the Greco-Roman mixed with a pyramid. Typically they want us to think that, okay, you've got a pyramid, it's a pyramid all by itself. But here you have the front and the forum. And I mean, this even looks like this could be part of the White House almost. It's really strange. But then you have these different design cues. What would this be made out of? And it's interesting, there's a cross on top, although we know crosses can have many different meanings. And you're probably onto something. Yeah, whip it up in 3 months. Good one. I like that. And that's a good point, Stephanie. I mean, for all we know, this could be some other sort of method of rendering, a printing technique that's beyond us, or some technology that didn't make it to our contemporary age, as I call it. Old world A-frame. Yeah, that just might be what it is. Welcome, Eric's. Glad to see you made it. Yeah, I think we got a couple individuals right there, and then a couple more approaching. So, yeah, we're all doing good. It's good to see you. Interesting, though, that I think these are statues on the top with it. Now, the stated function of this building might surprise you. It might not. It's a tomb. And again, designed in that same time frame with the Lecuy drawings when they were going to make a tomb for Sir Isaac Newton. I don't know. Was this supposed to be a tomb for Napoleon and he was going to get a really cool pyramid with some Greco-Roman stylings on it? Not sure. I don't know what the official explanation is. I didn't bother to look it up for this particular rendering because they're so extraordinary to begin with. Yeah. It's always the saying, you got your tomb of the day, and this would be it. So build me a tomb. I don't know. It reminds me of those 3 pyramids in the middle of nowhere I found in Iowa. Just 3 pyramids that were randomly put in a graveyard, and it was because some dude was a fan of old Egypt, and during the Great Depression decided to have 3 pyramids built. Of course, he wasn't buried in the pyramids, but they're still standing there. Not very impressive, though. So, hey, thanks, T-Ball. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. That's a good comment. Well, yeah, the bell-like resonator, it always just adds a little bit to the styling. So, hey, Bear, welcome, welcome. So we're just finishing up with our first tomb of the day. Yeah, and Cincinnati's a whole nother exploration. I actually have some family connections with that city that I'll be getting to, so it's quite an interesting story. Yeah, exactly. And I think you're on with that one, Adam, because of the fact that this could have been something that happened, or it could have been something that they came upon that was still standing and then again just did this rendering, or it could have even been a record from the previous era that somehow survived. And going back to the earlier comment about how these renderings do look like pictures, there is a lot of fine detail in them, and you see that a lot. So, all right, well, I think we've gotten enough excitement over the tomb of the day, so we'll move on. Now, does anybody have any idea where this little beauty is? And this is definitely one of those unique mixture styles here where you basically have a taller building with a little forum detail on it and then a dome, because why not? Remember, nothing says democracy like dome. Oh, good call out there. Yeah, I like that. Ah, right on, Bear. Whereabouts? Now, actually, I'll hold off on giving more details about the building. Let's just look at all of its glory as we see it before we go further with that. But uh, so, what do you think of this down here? Because these are some of the details that we could easily overlook just by being odd. Yeah, that's a good call out there, Eric. Hey, thank you, Cesus, and welcome. I like that one, Stephanie. uh, yeah, why not? It's a post office or it's some sort of federal building. Uh, well, I'm going to play a fun little game with y'all. I'm not going to tell you exactly where this particular building is or what year it is. And there's a reason for that. This building actually features in an upcoming video, but I thought I would show it here in the live stream. Just, a little bit of a benefit for you coming here. But this one's one of the great examples of the combination styles where you have, the classic skyscraper style, but the Capitol Dome on top of it, and then the Capitol Forum on top of it. And really, what that shows you was that style was not reserved exclusively for capital/administrative buildings. And when you look at this one a little closely, now hopefully I won't give you the detail on where it is because that's actually part of the fun story with this upcoming video. But if I do, oh well. Yeah, there you go. And I think we've got one of our examples. Oh, yeah, the horses pulling the trolley. That's always a fun one to see. I mean, all the details in this photo that you can see with this particular building. And then the other example of the fabricated columns in the many different scales that we get. But then just the fine detailing as well. And what kind of effort and work went into that? How did they get all these statues up here and in place like this? So it's not enough that it has a dome. You've got exquisite detail. And how many stories up is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now what we'd be told is, well, those, and how tall are each of those stories, too? That's another question. Because typically we see buildings now, we know how our buildings look. They seem really, really squashed, but does this seem like this is a compressed building? Well, thank you, Detective Life MD, and welcome. Yeah, I'm with you, Tabor. That's a good one. Probably like 25 floors, if not 30, depending how you arrange it. I mean, now they could probably get 35 to 40 out of it if they crunch it like we're so fond of doing with buildings these days. Yep. And there you see it. It's just the size and the scale. I think that's always the telling aspect of all these explorations that we do when we look at these older buildings. And I don't know what's going on here. Welcome, William. Well, hey, here you are, and it's good to have you. We're just looking at an old building from an unspecified location. I'm not sharing it with everybody yet because it's going to feature an upcoming video, but that's all right. If you look it up, it's not going to spoil anything too much. Yeah, I got a little smoke back here. I mean, that is a detail. I think it's coming from this building back here. Yeah, it's a good comment right there, Detective Life. It does look top heavy. And you have to wonder what kind of work would go into the foundation. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Welcome, Darren. So in any event, it's one of those that really stands out, and it shows you another combination of style that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So move on to the next one. All right, now this one I'm not going to play Where Are You, but I'll let you look at it first. So again, we have what seems to be a remarkable administrative building, and I apologize, the photo didn't have the top of the Antiquitech here on the main. I guess you could call it kind of a partial dome, but yeah, that was a good call out there, Adam. And then, of course, you have another one of these monuments, but does anyone want to venture what we're looking at here? If the monument's there, maybe it gives you a little bit of a guess. Again, you see the same type of construction, although there are some variations on it, on this building, to be fair. We have that same kind of foundation right here. And of course, it's got the old column type monument that always seems to be around any sort of administrative or civil building. And this is in Winnipeg, Canada. So I don't want my Canadian viewers to think that I'm overlooking them. And it's funny because not funny in a bad way, but yeah, Mystical Canadian Asylum. It's a good call out on that one. Yep, and it's a good call out on the different colors of bricks that you see, because that comes up a lot as well. And they actually call this a volunteer monument. That's what I was getting to. But if this was down in the United States, you would call the monument Soldiers and Sailors Monument, because, everything refers back to the Civil War in the United States. I do not know. And that's in an upcoming exploration. There's some spots on Canada I'm going to get to, although I've got plenty of other explorers who cover Canada very thoroughly, and I think they've already done a really good job. I think this may still be standing, but I need to look it up because, to be fair, I have not looked into Winnipeg at all. My efforts have been devoted elsewhere. But I think it's supposed to represent, I think, a Canadian soldier or Canadian Mountie. I'm not sure, because it represents the volunteer in that particular area. At least that's what we'll be told officially. But it's just the same thing. Like if this were down in the United States, they would just throw up some sort of Union infantry soldier on top of it carrying a musket and call it a Soldier and Sailors Monument. Yeah, and that could be a good call as well. And that's a good call out as well. Sometimes they take the top off and modernize them. They make them look more square, more 90-degree angles, and you remove all the beauty from them, and that's what you're left with. So, anyways, we'll move on to the next one. Now, this is more of a direct rendering, but does anybody have any idea what we're looking at here? Now, this did truly exist. Yeah, that's a good point. Didn't look very Canadian at all in his attire, I agree. Now, this building supposedly existed, although it was destroyed some time ago, at least in the official narrative of history. Well, what do you think about this one, just on what we can see? And it's very hard to find renderings or even concepts of this building because it is truly an extraordinary building. Phoenix, Arizona. No, not quite. Yeah, that's a good guess there, detective. And maybe someday they would call it Solomon's Temple. So this is the Grand Temple of Seoul. Hey, Michael, welcome and thanks for joining us. Hope things are going well in the land down under. So this is the Temple of Seoul, and this was allegedly built by Lucius Aurelian, or at least he ordered it built, as part of his commitment to Sol Invictus. And there really wasn't anything that survived from this temple except for many of the base blocks were supposedly used in the construction of the Hagia Sophia, which does still stand to this day in what is now Istanbul, Turkey. It's very hard to find renderings or drawings of what this temple looked like. The only thing we're told is that it was the greatest temple ever built in Rome, which is saying something. And if this did truly exist, you have to wonder what kind of capabilities they had and how did they build it. And it's something else, just like the Aurelian walls, which they said were built in 5 years. Supposedly it only took them a couple years to build this doozy as well. So who knows what the veracity on that truly is, or what we're looking at in this rendering, but just the size and detail. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Cheech. Great fires are everywhere. Yeah, and it's a unique column design with that kind of detail. But it does come up in numerous historical narratives, so who knows what the actual reality of it is. It's just something interesting to consider, and even finding renderings of it are very difficult. So we'll move on. Now, this is just a random building from 1857 in or about Germany. Does anybody have any idea what kind of purpose a building like this would be stated to have? Chronicle of Georgia. Yeah. Good call out on that one. One of these days I need to get back to Tbilisi too. The list just got so long. I intended to get back to do more explorations in Tbilisi. But anyway, you're dead on, Stephanie. That's exactly what they'll tell us it is. Yeah, and that's a good follow-up comment. It does look more like a radio tower. So we're told officially that this is an observatory, although it's a very extraordinary observatory if I've ever seen one. And I think there's something more with the radio tower up here. There were a lot of theories that there was already a wireless network that was in effect with the previous era, and I think that's something that we overlook. There you go. Good one, Seminole. Tesla's tower. I think it might have something to do with that. uh, yeah, it sounds like just the kind of place you'd like to have, huh? Isn't it interesting how overgrown it is all around it too when this picture was taken? That always seemed to be the case though with all those pictures from that time frame, is just how overgrown all the vegetation was. Yeah, precisely. Well, I'm sure they were able to go right to 5G and they didn't need to have, a little event to help facilitate it, if you know what I mean. So, uh, and it's funny to me how there's so much information that's been published with Tesla. And I know I made a controversial comment in one of my videos that Tesla may have been a fake, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Tesla was a very real and authentic individual, or maybe he just didn't know. Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe he just didn't know what the reality was. Oh, that's a good one, Adam. Almost missed that one. And there might be something to that as well. But you see this a lot where you look at these older buildings and you have these signs of modernity all over them that just don't make sense. And it's not just a minuscule sign of modernity, it's a tremendous sign of modernity where you just can't ignore it. Oh, yeah, back to Tesla. So, we just don't know. He might have been gifted. He might have had a vision to the old world and had a lot of ways to see things that he was able to bring across in designs, and then he was quickly suppressed. Or another theory is that he could have been someone who was just the person that they pinned the tail on to release this and then gradually lost credit. We just don't know. If it was a little more contemporary, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable about what the account is. But as we've seen, contemporary accounts can be quite twisted this day and age. So, in any event, a remarkable building that looks definitely out of place. So, moving on. Yeah, I think he did, Eric. I think he did. This is just a depiction of the tree of life. Now, I know I've kind of stepped back from any overall claims about what the shape of the realm is because the reality is I just don't know. But one of the things I always found interesting about the tree of life is that it depicted everything. You had a sphere, you have a disc, you have a flat plane, and yet you have gateways and connections to different portions of it. And that's a whole different mentality, sort of maybe I should say an alternative research or belief method. Yeah, that's right. You can't control people in a free world. We can't just have that. So, just take a quick break from looking at everything right now. And I just want to say thank you to all of you that are here because, all the comments that you make on the live streams, on the videos, they mean a lot because it's good to have that kind of collaboration. And that's really what this is all about. And, people do anything and everything they can to stop the collaboration. And, nothing's off the table right now where they'll try to accuse you of this, they'll try to say that. Yeah, I'm with you, detective. Uh, yeah, and those are all great comments. There you go, Eric. Synergy and dynamism. Dynamism. I don't know if you all have figured out, but I love toying around with pronunciation of words. So might have been because in my previous life there were some people who were very easily annoyed by that. And I'm not to say that I enjoyed annoying people, but when you have people who think that they have something on you and then all of a sudden you can annoy them in a little way, it could be beneficial. I'm glad I left that life behind. Yeah, that's a good call out too, Adam. And it's interesting the overlap that you have when you look at Native American cultures and then you look at the myth of other cultures that are supposedly disconnected. And yet at the same time, you see so many similarities. So, but anyway, just a little bit of an off bit, beaten path image there to look at and get the mind moving. And there you go. All right. So we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a very good one and a very good chance on that. All right. So here we have the classical villa that's built right into the rock, right on the rock. New world over. Do you believe the architectural style for the next decade will be solar punk? Nah, I doubt it. We'll probably just keep getting more of this lovely commercial plastique that we get in vast quantities. So, in any event, what do you think stands out about this one? Let me get a little closer. Now, I've actually been here. It's been quite some time ago, but I have actually been to this location, and I'll let you know that accessing it's not the easiest thing in the world. Yep, weird coloration of the rocks. And then with the way the villa stands out on it. And let me see if I can get over here to see how well you can see it. Yeah, you can still see the cross there. It's a little touched up to make it brighter, but I can assure you it's really there. Yeah, you're not too far off with that. You're around the right sea there. Yeah, a lot of ceiling tiles up there. That's right. Hey, thank you. Nothing's free. I really appreciate that. Well, believe it or not, this is actually in Greece. Yeah, this is one of the main villas that you can go and visit, and it's still standing. Now, of course, they give us the usual historical account of it that it was some Roman bureaucrat's villa at one point in time, and then over the years they just added a piece and a piece and a piece to it until you have this grand composition of buildings. Yeah, there you go. I like that one. You know what? And you might be onto something there. And that's what they're going to tell us it is. That's exactly what they'll tell us it became was a monastery. Yeah, Greece does get a lot of rain and a lot of extreme weather and a lot of wind too. But hey, don't let that stop you from building your dream villa monastery in a very remote and difficult to reach place. All right, we'll move to the next one. Now, this is a bit more of a concept image, but I wanted to share this because one of the things we haven't touched yet on the channel is the potential for civilizations and buildings that are made either underground or within mountains. And you're probably asking, well, why is that a theory that hasn't been touched yet? Because that's a whole nother line of thinking. And once I go down that entire line of thinking, that's going to take some time to cover and explain that. And it can be a little controversial, but that's all right. I'm not afraid to touch that, which is controversial on the channel. Just have to play it a little cautiously. But it's interesting that there are renderings like this out there already where people have conceptualized what an urban area would look like under the ground or in a mountain. And it's been done quite a lot more frequently than we're aware of. So it's really just giving you a preview. Oh, that's a good one. It's really just giving you a preview of what we're going to go to on the channel. Because there's so many different areas to explore, and what's the next one we're going to need to get into? Pool drain at the bottom. Let's take a look. This, what do y'all think? Yeah, it could be as part of the design. So we'll go on to the next one. Yeah, that's a good comment there, Adam. And pretty much anybody who's been caving or when you get down there into those really large caves, you see that there's a lot in the underworld or the underground, as I like to call it. And yes, I'll be getting back to that theme that the channel started earlier. I have not dropped it at all. Just had many other things that have come up. So let's go on to the next one. All right. I'll give you a second to look at this. I'm going to step out for a minute and go ahead and keep talking. Let me know what you think on this one. I will be back in 2 minutes. Okay, we're back. Now, what's intriguing about this one is this is yet another image of the underground, and we have to wonder what this represents. Now, would you care to venture a guess as to where this supposedly is? Although I doubt the veracity of this photo, and I'll explain why in a second. But if anybody wants to poke a couple guesses. Prohibition seller. That's probably what they'd tell us now. Peru, Europe. All right. Supposedly, this is actually a photo from under a church in Rome. However, when you do a lot of photo look and detective work on it, along with some of the accounts, what's intriguing about it is while you supposedly have what are, I don't know if they're choir boys or what, but there are indications that the photo came from somewhere in Turkey. At least that's what the official account says. And I'm still doing the research on this one because there's 3 or 4 different conflicting accounts. Yeah, that's a good one. There are 3 or 4 conflicting accounts about where this photo is really from. Now, yes, you can look this up, do a reverse photo search, and it'll tell you, but I doubt it. And whenever I have doubts like this, I'm not going to go ahead and say that I know something. Wait till you see the research paradox video that'll be coming out next week, where we're going to talk about that. Because one thing you'll oftentimes hear a lot of people tell you when they want you to think something is, well, I do good research, and therefore, because of my good research, you must believe what I say. Okay. We'll just completely ignore the fact that 99% of the sources that you can research are either fabrications or incorrect themselves for reasons beyond the author's control, right? Oh, that's a good one. The Rock of Gibraltar. An even better one. Yep. Take a right and you're in the Bat Cave. Hey, Geif, good to hear from you. Yep. So this is just, again, I'm picking some of these to allude to what the channel is going to be going to. So, yeah, and it is being used as a church. It's just a question of where and when. It's one of those strange photos that doesn't make any sense, and the official account behind it doesn't make any sense. So I prefer to look at it with more objective eyes. Floor is pretty incredible. And yet you see a building that looks like it's been either burned out, bombed out, or damaged in some way that we can't even imagine. Now, going on with the theme of the underground, maybe some of you have seen these images before. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, they sure are. I mean, they've built how many convents? They've built children's schools, universities, large abbeys all over the world in a very short amount of time with minimal materials and lack of logistics. That's the other thing you don't see people talking about when you look at all these miracles that they achieved in the past is just the logistical requirements, getting people food and water that they needed to complete all these incredible, remarkable, and unbelievable achievements. I had to throw remarkable in there and I hadn't used it enough, but I mean, just look at this. And the reason I alluded to this is starting to hint at, what's the origin behind the subway system? How many cities have subway systems? So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's quite possible too. And thank you for making that point, Tabor. And you're right. That's just how it boils down. All right, we're back. Stream's just lagging for a second, but all is well. The Lizard's Highway. No. That can't be synergy right there, but it just might be. All right, let's go to the next one. Now, this is a really intriguing image. Now, you might have seen this before. If you watch other researchers' channels, I think it was featured, might have been on John Levi. I can't remember if he's done it or not. I know somebody did. So, but what do you think of this particular one? And let's zoom in here a little bit. See what you're looking at. Thanks. Let me get that up there. But what the heck is this really showing? And then here's where it gets really interesting. Yep, and that's what a lot of people say that it represents. That's a good one, Bailey. And then even more interesting when you have this giant figure. Oh, excuse me. You have the giant figure here who's looking at it in the corner. And you know what, Cheech? There's a lot of evidence for that too. I mean, a lot of evidence that just can't be ignored. And you know what? If we took it at face value, that's probably exactly what it would be. A shipping mall for houses. Pick your house out and then they'll get it loaded up and shipped. Although we have plenty of accounts from the historical narrative of just hauling houses around and hauling buildings around on water. There's even some hokey pictures of it too. Probably get to that at some future exploration. So, anyways. I'm sure you're going to ask, what do I think this image could represent? Well, I mean, Adam could be onto something if we take it literally. It could be a representation of Plato's cave. Yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah, the guy in his chair gets up and then they haul in the ladder and they bring in the airship and then they haul it down. So I don't know if this is a representation of the land and the realm where you have the individual in power and everyone's going about their toil, or it is a literal representation of just the scale of things and how everything seems to be under control. Well, you know what? On New World Over, I think you might be onto something with that too. Because there do seem to be what potentially are temporary buildings in this. Oh, good call out on that one too. Good one, detective. Yep. Kind of like a certain crystal skull that we've seen a couple times on a less than satisfactory Indiana Jones movie. Oh, sorry. I try not to barf my opinions on movies. I just try to talk about their connections, but sometimes I can't help it. I'm only human, okay? Yeah. So, but an intriguing image all around, regardless. And I thought this was interesting. Yeah, that's a good one, Tabor. So I've been on the theory for a while about how we have these different types of columns and all the different sorts of makes. And I remember in school learning about Corinthian, Dorian, blah, 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 blah. And here you actually have a bit of a scale of what these columns could look like, and then all the different types. Empire, Louis 15, Louis 14. But the thing that we see with these columns when we look at all these buildings is the different scales of the columns. So, for example, let's just say we wanted to order say a torse right here. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, somebody go ahead and laugh at me. But a torse right here. And let's say we were building ourselves a big, huge Capitol building. We could get one of these babies at 100 feet tall. But then we could also order 20 that are about 15 to 20 feet tall, because we're going to put them around the rotunda where we're going to build the dome for our Capitol building. And that's what we talk about when we talk about scaling all the time, is just the fact that it seemed like the previous civilization was able to build all these amazing detailed columns, and yet they were able to do it in so many different scales. And that's why we oftentimes speculate that, yeah, these are prefabricated design kits. Yeah, there you go. Good comment there, detective. Oh, great one, Seminole. I like that. Hey, Carmel. Yeah, it is very pretty when you look at it. And, when you see all these columns and all these designs all over the world at many different scales, they do exist. And a lot of them are still with us. I think you can find an example of all these, except, no, you can still find the Egyptian one. So they all still exist. And then, of course, you have more of the classic design, but it's an intriguing mix. All right, next one. Okay. Not going to tell you where this one is exactly, but what do you think overall of this particular building? That's a good comment. Yep. Does anybody want to guess that this is a post office? Now here's the other one. Yep, good one, Cheech. Mud flood. I wasn't able to get the exact location on this. So if anybody's got a location on this, by all means, share it with me, because oftentimes I receive updates and various emails from supporters, and this is one that I got on a little bit of an email, and I just wanted to present it here in the live stream because I haven't quite seen a building like this. So if anybody can find out the exact location, I'll be working on it myself when I get to it. But this one just impressed me because of the size and the detail in the building. And, we'll be told it's either a courthouse or an admin building of some sort. But you tend not to see something quite like this. And then notice this with this type of cross that you have. And that could be true too. Yeah, and I certainly agree with that. I mean, it's got all the classic signs of being your mud flooder. Who knows how tall this building originally was. Yep. But this is just another one of those anomalies. And then just look around you. Here you have all this mud, and it looks like we did the old, okay. Yep. 18-foot windows, please. It's because they needed the light, okay? They needed to light those places. It's a simple explanation. We're just crazy if we think there's any other reason. But yeah, especially when making windows is really easy too, right? Of course, they'll tell us it's right. And then look at this. There's a lot of intrigue with this particular building. All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah, good call out there, Adam. Good question. Apparently, it was very easy to manufacture, and you could manufacture a lot of it in short amounts of time, right? Class, no problem. Okay. Now, this is officially a mansion, believe it or not. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, armory or mansion. They did catalog this one a mansion, technically, but it really doesn't matter. It could have just as easily been an armory. I'm kind of surprised with you, Detective, they didn't call it an armory. I'm glad you brought up gingerbread houses there, Captain Flatastic, because what do you think, or where do you think you can still see gingerbread houses to this day? There's actually a city that has a lot of gingerbread houses that look a lot like this. No, it's not New York. Yeah, castle or mansion or armory or inexplicable building. Well, the one I was thinking about, there's places in Turkey where you'll see some good examples of these buildings, but if you go to Sarna in Yemen, you will see nothing but buildings with brick and the gingerbread look like this. I mean, they're all over the place there. Hmm. Yeah, that's always the thing that gets me, is so this is actually from Chicago, supposedly, but it really could be from any of the locations y'all mentioned. Purportedly, this is from Chicago. This is one of the mansions in Chicago, and somebody decided to build themselves a castle. And since this will be featured on an upcoming video, I'm not going to tell you the story behind this one because there's a very interesting story that accompanies this one too. Never a dull moment around here. I like all these little details right here. And then you get your little spindly brick pattern there going up the tower because that's no problem. Yes, and there's still some remarkable buildings all in and around Chicago, and they're hidden in very plain sight. And don't worry, everybody, I'm still going to be doing my on-site World's Fair. There's still some remaining buildings there to be checked from 1893, believe it or not. Okay, now we're definitely going to play Where Are We? And are any of our good friends from down under still on? Because they should probably have an idea of where this might be. Yeah, I think that's always been true. Oh, look at that. Bailey's all over it. So what do you think of this beauty? Yeah, I would guess Turkey too. But nope, it's in Australia. Just incredible. And just incredible for what a nation that we're told has a similar history to the United States, although originally began as a penal colony, and yet in just a few short decades, able to build incredible buildings with remarkable detail. Yeah, Aborigines. I mean, I'm surprised they don't tell us that. That would make more sense than what they do tell us. But then also right here, I'm thinking this photo was from 1870s time frame, but again, who knows? Let's just throw a guess out even when they tell you what the exact year is. But I rather enjoy all this wiring here. Yeah, that's a good point. And Australia is something I need to devote a lot of attention to. It's just like India, it's got its own legends and own myth, and it doesn't make a lick of sense. It's just another anomaly after anomaly. Once you start looking into Australia, I mean, you go deep down the hole. Well, there might be some truth to that comment, but I hope that's not the case now. So, in any event. Okay, for the last image for the day. Hey, Marie. Yeah, glass insulators. I agree with that one. There was a lot to see on that pole. And Stephanie, just to field your question before we go on the next one, it's circa 1870s, but like I said, I don't know for sure. I don't trust what they tell us on the dating a lot of the photos. So, and my belief is we're only as much of a prisoner as we want to be, and I'd prefer to be less of one. So this is a Lecuy drawing, supposedly from 1795. Ah, Yeah, I get you. Well, they tell us prisoners built the state capitol in New Mexico for a bargain too. That was a fun one. And it's funny how much that video got shut down once I published it too. You can't even joke about that. Desert enigmas. Yeah, don't be talking about that stuff. And you have to wonder. Oh, giant fasces at the top. Could well be. It's a good call out on that one. But again, it looks like another one of those incredible monuments that, if we saw now, it just depends what nation you're in, what nation designated you're in now. If it's the United States, then of course they would say, well, it's a soldier and sailors monument. Yeah, merry-go-round, I like that. So I haven't touched the Lecuy drawings for some time, so I thought I would share one here on the live stream today and see what your thoughts were on it. So, but this is just another one. Oh, the Phoenix. Yeah, that's a good call out. Alpha Mayas. Yep. Just many little details, though, that you see all over on it. Come buy your statue. One Frenchman who had nothing to do but draw all day, every day. So. All right. Well, that's it for the images. So I'll open it up to a little Q&A, or actually I'll ask you all a question. So what are you thinking of the movie reviews? I'm thinking of evolving that a little bit and opening that up to TV shows, characters, and some other things, but I wanted to get some feedback on it. How do you feel that's going, or are there some ideas you'd like to see on old world reviews? Oh, thanks, Tabor. I appreciate that. Thank you, Captain Flatastic. Thank you, Nothing's Free. Oh, okay. Thank you. For all of you here, I'll just let you in on something. You might be surprised to know that the most resistance I've gotten has actually come from within the community itself, which is quite fascinating to me. I mean, you get the usual friction from the mainstream, so it's just funny who tends to give you the most resistance. And yet I've actually, and I don't know if it's real people in the community or people just pretending to be in the community. It's always a guessing game because, you just see posted responses as typed words. But I've gotten a lot of resistance to doing those reviews. And I don't know, maybe there's a reason why I continue to enjoy doing them. It's just because it just seems to bother people. And I don't know why. Is it because I'm pointing out things in films that I'm not supposed to? So. All right. Well, it seems like I'm getting a pretty good consensus. So. Hey, Cosmic Nomad. Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things with it. So. Hey, I'm going to do what I want to. That's never been my issue in life. But, at some point, I want to make sure I elicit some feedback because, you're all devoting your time to be here. And, it's a collaborative effort. That's the way I see it, as is the research show. When you legitimately want to be here and you're legitimately sharing something, which you all are, I think that's where we get the most of it. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. To be honest with all of you, that's the part I enjoy the most, is interacting with all of you. And frankly, my only regret is I didn't do live streams sooner, but that's all right. You pushed me until I went the right direction. All right, animated movie reviews. Well, there's a bunch we could pick from because they're definitely, yep, you already said it right there. Can't say any better than that. So, okay. Well, don't worry, they're not going anywhere. So, but I think the next one that we're going to do, and I had this on the list for some time, and it's one that we need to cover. We got to cover V, the miniseries, just because of all the things that are hidden in plain sight, and also the timing on when that miniseries came out. There's a lot of things. Oh yeah, don't you worry, Oki. We're getting to Zardoz. We're getting to Zardoz. All right. Well, I really appreciate that kind of feedback, and thank you very much. And that's what really generates the ideas. So, all right. Okay. Well, seems like we got a good consensus there. Okay, now I open it up to you. Your questions, or what other areas of exploration would you like to see me delve into a little bit more? So I guess you could say this is where I'm opening it up to requests a little bit. And that includes the live streams. Are there other things you'd like to look at or discuss in the live stream? So, hey, New West Reset, thanks for joining us. Okay, well, he said hi, and I'm saying hello to him. What have you got? Oh, yeah, Futurama. You go back and watch that show again at some point. I got a little buried at that time as I was one of the phases of my life I was busy. So, okay. Well, it sounds like we want to keep the live streams as they are. But by all means, if you have something you want to contribute in the comments on the videos as we go, let me know. Glenwood Springs Hotel, Colorado. I'll take a look. Yeah, that's a good one too. It's a good one too. Don't worry, I'm going to rewatch the live stream in case I missed anything. Yeah, thanks, Captain Flatastic. Yep. Make sure you hit that like button here. I'll just give everybody a friendly little reminder. There you go. Well, thanks. I really appreciate that. Hmm. Current affairs concerning new archaeology finds. Huh. That's a possibility. The only thing with when you get into current affairs is oftentimes you find yourself chasing something you're supposed to be chasing. So, and when someone says, "Well, what are you supposed to be chasing?" The thing that concerns me is that whenever you follow anything that comes out from the mainstream, especially media releases or whatever, there's usually a tangle that they have you following for some particular reason. And there's something you're following that may not necessarily lead to something good. Now, on the other hand, by doing that, if you're able to retain your objectivity and self discipline, which I'll admit is very difficult to do, you can find out some incredible things. And I think I'm willing to take that chance a little bit, Tabor, to look into some current affairs and see what we can really find with new archaeology finds and see what they're trying to tell us. Yeah. No, and I agree with that. And I think that's something we could really call out. So, well, thanks, Cheech. I appreciate that. Yeah, just keep passing the word. I mean, everyone's welcome here. It doesn't matter to me where you're from, what your background is, or even what you believe. And if you want to disagree with me, that's okay. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to present a different viewpoint and just encourage thoughts and discussion. And that's why I always tell you to think for yourself, because that'll always be my value. And I would say that's the most important thing I've learned from life. Well, and the focus will be on the past, but interestingly enough, what you'll find is there's a lot of allusions to the future that I think actually go back to the past. And I think that happens a lot more than we're aware of, such as in Logan's Run. Yeah, and I think that's very true too. And we have many different viewpoints that could be correct, that may not be correct, or may have some element that's correct to all of them. But what's the real truth? And that's why we keep searching. And your beliefs are your beliefs, and that's something I'll always respect. It's just always comical when you get into this research. You'll have people try to control you in one of two ways. They'll try to tell you everything's either about money, or they'll try to tell you that you're an idiot for thinking this. And I just always laugh when somebody says that, because they don't have anything to counter what you're saying. So, well, thank you, New West Reset. I appreciate that. And that Grand Canyon video definitely got suppressed. So I'm glad somebody watched it. uh, If I could recommend one film for you to watch today, what would it be? Okay, well, what film are you talking about? Just a film overall that'll entertain you, or a film that'll genuinely move you and you'll never forget it for the rest of your life? What do you think? Oh, the heck with it. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I already reviewed the film, and it was Excalibur. And the reason for that, I think I explained it in the review. So yeah, it's still going to be Excalibur. I mean, I'm partial to the Dark Knight trilogy, but that's the entertainment side of me coming out. I can delineate between what's entertaining and what has deeper meaning into it. Try comparing the original two Superman movies to the newer Superman movies and tell me there's deeper meaning in the newer Superman movies. Yep. Yeah, that trilogy was just completely out of place. That the new Batman trilogy from the 2000s. And what I mean by out of place was that it just didn't make any sense that movies that good came out during that time frame, but somehow they did. It's just remarkable. My favorite adjective. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think I do need to take a look at the Cleopatra movie, because there is an entire story that goes behind the production of that movie too. That's really crazy. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense when you look at it. Well, and you know what? We don't know, Bailey. We could have had far more time than we realize. The Abyss. Tabor, are we a James Cameron fan? uh, I do actually think it was one of his best all around movies, believe it or not, even though it was received lukewarm when it came out, interestingly enough, a little bit. But that's because there were like two other underwater films that came out that same year, and everybody was a little reluctant to get back underwater again. Oh, Ed O'Neill. uh, well, and here's the thing, the subliminal influence can be advanced, but if you know what you're going into, and if you realize that you're going in and you're watching something that has the ability with the visual medium to influence you, suddenly the subliminal influence is reduced and you get to a point to where you can laugh at it. So, and it's a strange phenomenon. I hate to say this because I know a lot of other researchers say this, but I'm just going to go on record to say it. You see it a lot more with movies that came out before, say, about 2001. There's kind of a divide line right there. A lot of the movies before 2001, they had a completely different message, and it almost seems like they came from a completely different world than a lot of the movies who came out after 2001 did. And it's very ironic that it's that year, too. Okay, hold on, Cindy. I got to highlight this comment. So, yeah, no problem. Okay, all right, Cindy. I'm just going to confess this to everybody here. That's actually my favorite movie in the world. And I know it didn't do well, but it was when it came out, and the fact that there's no other movie like it, that's my favorite movie. So now y'all know. Yeah, Ed Harris. That's okay, Tabor. Ed O'Neill, Ed Harris. Yeah, it was good to see Ed Harris back in Top Gun, wasn't it? And there's another one of those movies that made absolutely no sense. I did not expect that movie to be good at all, and I was completely blown away. Yeah, I'll look into that. Looks like we kind of went into the movie topic a little bit, but yeah, and there's probably a lot of truth to that too. And I think that's when there was a lot of changes to what we saw and how things were done, how things were made. And, it didn't have anything to do with any sort of event that we don't speak of, but, we're not fools. We can see what happened. This is a good one, Jamie. Yep. The movie is just called Kroll. Came out in 1983 with Ken Marshall, Liam Neeson, and you'll never see another movie like it. It is the official genre on it is it's science fiction fantasy. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. And I'll just go ahead and say it right here. I think what makes that movie fantastic, a lot of people don't understand the movie Kroll. They go into it thinking that they're going to see some kind of fantasy film, and then they get some science fiction elements to it, or something else along the line. So it's an incredible movie because when you look at it with the eyes that we have now, it suddenly has a lot of different meanings. But I'm not going to review it because it is my favorite movie, and I'm not going to cover it because it's my favorite movie. But if you want to ever ask me questions about it, by all means, go ahead. Well, it could be, but if it is, it's really bad at what it does. So, we can just laugh at it and continue to enjoy our lives. It's a really good movie, and that's one movie that definitely came out a little later. It was 84, I believe. Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid. I had a lot of people asking for that one in the video store back in the day. What you got here, Adam? I want to make sure I cover this one. Yep, and there's a lot of indications that that's exactly what happened. And where I was in the world, I saw and felt that happen firsthand, both before and after. And it was really strange how so many people acted around that time too, because it's almost as though people weren't acting like you would have expected them to before it. And bizarre is the only way I can put it. It just didn't make any sense. And all these years later, it still doesn't make any sense. Are you talking about the one from the 1970s, I think? Oh, come on now, Tabor. I was going to try to avoid that one. So, but since you asked, I enjoyed it somewhat. But to be honest, I still prefer the Spice Diver edition cut of the 1984 movie, David Lynch's version. I think the casting was better in David Lynch's version. And I think if David Lynch could have made the movie he really wanted to make, the 3 to 3.5 hour long movie, it would have been the ultimate edition of Dune. But the studio chopped it apart. They didn't support him. He was denied final cut, and they released that horrifying version that nobody can understand. And yeah, if you watch the original theatrical cut of Dune, you have no hope of understanding it. I mean, I liked some elements of the new Dune, but yeah, it didn't really get to me. So there's two good ones right there. Naked Lunch and Inner Zone. Yep. I'll probably cover Naked Lunch. That has Peter Weller, if memory serves. He's always intriguing to watch. Well, and you know what? With some of the old friends I have that worked at the video store, we have a term for remakes. We just call them recyclings because that's all they're doing. And I remember the first movie that came out that really angered me was Clash of the Titans in 2010. Oh man, Clash of the Titans. It was horrible. I would gladly watch the Ray Harryhausen classic any day of the week. And Harry Hamlin's got about 10,000 times the charisma that what's his name? Don't even want to say his name. Sam Worthington does. Just my feeling. Okay, look, if you disagree with me, that's fine. But give me the original Clash of the Titans any day. That Medusa still scares me. The new Medusa was a laugh, literally and figuratively. What the heck? All these special effects, and that's all they could give us. Don't look at me. I'm going to turn you into stone. You really got me going now. Yep, that was a good classic too. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. All right, well, since you... Okay, wait, before I move on. Yep, Buckaroo Banzai. That's another classic. Another Peter Weller film too. And you know what, New West? Sam Worthington was the one who wanted to trash on Boo Boo the Owl. And I think that was the point where the movie lost me, because when they threw away Boo Boo the Owl and said it's junk, and then 10 minutes later, they're riding giant scorpions. Yeah, that movie completely lost me. There was no recovering at that point. That's all right. I'm dating myself here with all these old movies that I'm telling you about. So, hey, we're all getting dated. So, and that's a good comment right there. And that's exactly why. Practical effects. The movies were more real ultimately when you had practical effects, even models and miniatures. At least there was still something real that you could see. We can tell computer generated imagery, and I don't care how many AIs they slap on it. It's the same thing. You can tell. Now, some movies do a better job of it and have done a better job of mixing computer generated imagery with practical effects. The original Lord of the Rings did a spectacular job. I know some people despise those movies. A lot of Tolkien fans do, but it did do a very good job of depicting battles. You won't see a movie that depicts a cavalry charge the way Lord of the Rings does. And let's not talk about Game of Thrones. So, all right. I got to get off this tangent here because I had one more question for you. So we're going to look to transition the Mondays. Then we'll continue the movie miniseries reviews. That'll just be old world connections. Our explorations are going to be going more into the underground here and looking at some of those concepts as well. But I'll open the floor up if anybody has any other questions they'd like to ask. And now it's just general Q&A, whatever you want to ask. Or if you still want to hit me up about my movies, go ahead. We probably have about 10 more minutes. So, is somebody a fan of Godzilla movies? Yeah, I can't get enough of Godzilla's tail kick, his sliding tail kick. The Black Cauldron, that is a very intriguing movie because there's a lot that's associated with that movie. And also considered Disney's biggest failure in a lot of ways. So, what's the thing I'm most looking forward to in the future? Probably just doing another triathlon. I'm trying to finish the one in Cork. I was scheduled in 2020, and well, I think you all know what happened in 2020. And I think Ireland is one of the best places to do a triathlon. So I'm looking to get one done. Hopefully I can get registered here sooner rather than later. The movie, great movie and very well made. And even, I think it was one of Ridley Scott's great early efforts. He used to be an incredible filmmaker. That's a good question, Michael. We don't know, and it could be much older than we realize. I mean, if you ever go into an old farmhouse and you just get on the doorknob and it's the old brass doorknob, there is nothing that'll damage that thing. You can throw it through anything, you can drop it, you can smash it with a sledgehammer, and it will stay perfectly intact. It's crazy. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's not so much the movie, it's more the effects that it had, so. Yeah, that's a good call out too. That's definitely something that, has been lost for some time. No, not really. I kinda divorced it when, I was told that I was stupid for even watching them, so. I'll give them a chance, we'll see. There's always a new day tomorrow, so. Well, they did, they remade them, but yeah, they didn't go on with them, so, Robert Englund will be making a little bit of appearance in one of our upcoming reviews. It's an early role for him, so. I sure hope this is not true, but, with the programs they have with it, that's what they'll be saying, and then everybody will be flocking to him because they seem to be pushing everybody towards this whole concept. I'm afraid that's the truth. But that's all right. We'll keep our eyes open and we'll be able to see it just like we've already been seeing it for how many years? Ah, look at that. Someone's already on it. V. Yes, we have a V review to do. Because when you're dealing with horrifying lizards, you call Mark Singer. Call Mark Singer. uh, Michael, that's a good question. I think I know what some explorers have done is they've taken to purchasing those old houses and running them as bed and breakfasts. And that's how they've managed to preserve the buildings. And then, believe it or not, people from all walks of life love to come and stay because they've never stayed in a house that nice. And they've never stayed in a house where you won't hear anything outside, above you, below you, or whatever. Yeah, the V series is very disturbing. There's no doubt about it. And I actually had one of my first big Mandela effects with V the Final Battle. But I'll get to that when we get to the review. All right, got about 5 more minutes. So if you got any other doozy questions you want answered, go ahead and light me up. Yep, that's a good one. And they do that a lot too. And you see a lot of roller coasters, just like golf courses tend to be built on top of things like that. But, that's kind of their go to amusement park or golf course. And when I was affiliated with the United States military, there was a joke that the first thing they would always build when they'd build a new base or post was a golf course. But it wasn't a joke. That was always the first thing they built. Ugh. Yep, the one from the '80s was a real. I'll just say it. It was terrible, Jamie. And then I couldn't get into the one from 2009, 2010 because by then I was already done with remakes. So what can I say? And I'll be getting to those, Cheech, and that's on the list as well. Old world abandoned chateaus or castles or amazing buildings, whatever you want to call them. That's a good one, Adam. I'll be looking for that. And there's actually a lot of articles that talk about the lizard people. How many hours I work a day? I honestly don't keep track. All I know is that I'm happy what I do every hour of every day, and I've never felt that way in my life before. So it really doesn't matter. I don't see really anything as work anymore. And I think that's just really the state that I've been trying to be in my entire life. And, I've wanted to get there for quite some time. There's probably more to that story, and we'll be looking into that one as well. Whenever you're talking about any genocide, there's always more details behind it. I think there was something else going on there. Clearly, a lot of people died. It was a horrible event, but what were the whys behind it. And take care, Tabor. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, that was just my goal. You come up with goals, and everybody needs to come up with their own goals. And ultimately, what you're all doing in your lives is just as important as what I'm doing in mine, and work towards them. And that's all that matters. Life force. Okay. Little anecdote before I call it a day and we sign off. So there's a joke back when I was working with military officers that if you had lost your mind and you looked like you were confused, that you looked like Steve Railsbeck from Life Force. You look as discombobulated as Steve Railsbeck from Life Force, because through that entire movie, that guy looked like he was just completely lost right up until he got impaled and then sucked back up in the ship with the vampire. It's a great movie, though. Nothing else quite like it. Hey, Bargine Journey, thanks for joining us. All right. Well, I think that's it for the day. So thank you for joining the live stream. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll look to continue next week, and looking forward to the videos coming up. So thank you for joining me, and I think we're going to call it. Great to have you here, Adam. Take care of yourself. You guys all have a great weekend and enjoy your week. It's all right, Bargene. You got the one next week.